able to get anyone on for you today, guys. I hope that you can understand and sort of be ask for your patience with that in advance. Obviously, as I said, guys are back working, coaching, etc. Ben, today's sort of shortened version of Coffee and Cricket, probably looking about half an hour. So for those who are joining us, guys, it'll be short, sharp today, but hopefully quite interesting. Ben, talk us through your current view on the announcements. Tell me about your vector of disease.
You know, I've not got one with me, actually, a vector of disease. It's probably fortunate. No. Well, I mean, I feel he's got a valid point that, you know, like the ball has a lot of interactions with different players and passing it from hand to hand, and it's not realistic. I know people have suggested washing everyone's hand at the end of every over, but I don't think that's realistic. I don't think that's just not cricket, really. So I think I said it before. You either play the game properly and get on with it and accept the risks, or you don't play. And I don't really think there's much in between in terms of washing hands between balls, overs, washing the ball, changing the ball. They're all great ideas, but just not practical. No. So I think we'll get to a point where people will say, right, the risk is this, and we just choose to get on with it. I think. I
think it's interesting. I don't think that quote was potentially. How can I put it?
It's classic Boris, isn't it?
Yeah,
classic
I don't really think.
He's trying to be really clever.
He's trying to be clever, but I'm not sure that it's.
It's not gone down that well.
No, it isn't. It isn't.
It gives people a chance to take the mick, I think.
To absolutely pile in, doesn't it? But there we go. But what we would say is that we've seen there's been a couple of posts out there this week from Michael Vaughan. Michael Vaughan has become pretty vocal now. I'm not sure whether he's got an interest there with his kid. Is a club cricketer or
I don't think it's about that. Michael Vaughan's vocal.
No. What I'm saying is he does like an opinion, but what I'm saying is that I think his kids play as well. So I think that there is a vested interest there in wanting kids cricket back, and I think that reflects all of us who either have kids or work with kids, coach juniors. That is the most important thing now, is that we get the juniors back. On that note, we are fortunate that we are starting to get back to business as such, with a number of club coaching sessions lined up for the coming weeks, which is great to see. Clubs are getting their kids back playing. Obviously, that's a positive for the cricket community, positive for the kids to get them back playing cricket, and also, gets us back doing what we enjoy on the day-to-day job. So that's a real positive. Not that long though, is it, Ben, till the first Test match?
No, mate, not long at all. And to be honest, I've not even thought about it once.
No,
there's so much other stuff going on in the world. Like, with the football's restarted, obviously, and it's weird. And I think they're playing crowd noises, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
That's just ludicrous. I don't know why they're doing that. I don't rate it at all. But I don't really watch football anyway, so I wasn't very excited by it. I guess
the equivalent is like, you've got sort of like one of the Derbyshire players like running in at Derby and like nicks the outside edge, and big appeal goes up, and there's nobody in the ground, and then they start blasting out, I don't know, some like N-dubs or whatever it is the kids listen to, and I sort of think, I don't know if it's got quite the same feel, mate. Or you sort of made a joke to me, didn't you, earlier in the week, if you don't mind me saying, and you were like, what would the crowd noises look like at certain grounds? It'd be a couple of dogs barking, wouldn't it, or something?
Depends on the ground, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. I'm not sure with cricket that works, but I think that the positives to come out this week with the ECB are that it appears that within the internal communications, I've not got an insight on this. I've not had any sort of conversation with anyone on with the ECB or anything, as we perhaps have done previous, but it would appear from the outside, Ben, that the penny has dropped with regards to the PR of the statements.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's happened is, again, like we said the other week, it's very easy to sit here and like bash the ECB with everything they do and say it's terrible. And I noticed that,
and we wouldn't do.
No, I noticed that someone who works at one of the local cricket boards took particular offence to people bashing the ECB. I mean, he made some very good points that really they're definitely not in an enviable position with all this, and they're having to follow a government that's not quite sure what they want. So I think that they're improving their approach, definitely, and they can't hide that the first decision was the one that was going to bring the money in. So they focused their time on that. Now they've sorted that out and they've got Test match cricket. It's going to be on TV. Now they're turning their focus to the recreational game, and obviously the county cricket as well, which I don't know what's going to happen with that. To be honest with you, they've revised their season a number of times. They're desperate to get a couple of 4-day games in, aren't they? But I just don't think it's realistic.
I think it's interesting. I think that we had a chat in the week, didn't we, to one of the Glamorgan players, actually, who we have a good relationship with. And again, his viewpoint was really interesting, was that if they do just focus on white ball cricket, then does that mean they could end up leaving red ball cricketers on furlough? Does that mean they could be cancelling red ball cricketers' contracts early? I think there's the flip side of that, if you only play 2 4-day games, could you be getting a red ball cricketer off furlough or back to work for 8 days? I think with the part-time furloughing that's going to happen next month, that would be easier, and that's going to help the county cricketers. But it does provide some really interesting questions, doesn't it, as to white ball, red ball cricketers, players that have not pigeonholed themselves, but either through performance or choice into each of the categories, and actually how are their counties going to manage them coming on and off furlough part-time, recording, I guess, the hours that they play, working that out pro rata so that they can benefit financially as much as possible. It's a really interesting. It's an unenviable task, isn't it, I'd say, at the moment.
Yeah, definitely.
That said, Ben, there is, I don't know if you saw this week, that the new Leicestershire chief exec has started his position. What's
his name? I didn't see it.
I tweeted him this week, actually.
Did he work at the county before he was chief exec?
No, I don't believe so. He came from Huddersfield, Ben. He came from Huddersfield. He came from Huddersfield Football Club. I'm just getting the pronunciation right here because I don't want to sort of
say his name wrong.
Yeah, correct. Sean Jarvis, and that's Sean.
No, I have. Yeah, I did hear
Jarvis. Yeah. Okay. I was about to say Jervis, but obviously that's a lad that I coach. I didn't want to sort of get the Jervis.
Alex Jarvis.
Honestly, I coach a lad called Jervis, and I wanted to make sure it was Jarvis, not Jervis. So there we go. Sean Jarvis. So he tweeted out this week, right then at Leicestershire, let's do this. So I think he's really up for it. It's clear, I think, that he's obviously been, he's got his start date or he's been taken back, etc. And actually, he liked our tweet there. We sent him a good luck message from the FCC. Wish you all the best in the new role. If you only leave one lasting legacy, I hope he leaves more. At the club, then please, capitals enlarged, do not sign any washed-up has-been journeymen who A, have no interest in wearing the fox, or B, have no connection to the fans. Fans will be far more supportive with the youth. And he liked that tweet. So I'm hoping that means he agrees with it.
No comment.
Time will tell.
I'm sure he's got big plans, mate. I'm sure he's got big plans.
Yeah, I do feel crumbs starting in the new position at this time as well.
Not easy.
It's a baptism of fire.
Yeah.
But do you know what? Do you know what he has done? He is, like Northants came out really early on with all this and said, we want to play cricket. He has actually come out this week, and it was headline on the Cricketer website, the Cricketer magazine, and he said, we are ready for cricket and we want to get playing. So I think that's a massive statement from the start, because then that stops the county turning around saying, no, it's easier for us to stay on furlough, or we don't want to play, or it's not viable. So I think the fact he has just come in and said,
bang,
one of his first statements is, we want to be back playing cricket. Crumbs. That to me, that's a decent win for him first up, really.
I think everyone's on the same page, really, in the fact that everyone wants to see county cricket return as soon as it can, safely, and as the game should be played. And I'm sure we'll see some cricket this season, even if it is just T20. I think we'll all be happy to see it. And to be fair, it might, if there's no crowds in the grounds, it might give some more television exposure to some of the smaller counties, or some counties that don't necessarily get a lot of that, or games that might not have had TV exposure in the past. So I think it could be really good. I've just had a text, by the way, from Stuart Murphy at ECV, and he's just put Jarvis/Jervis and then hand over face.
Yeah, it can easily confuse. Ben, West Indies squad, obviously, I think that they all came back. We said, didn't we, last time, negative on their coronavirus testing, but obviously that can all change very quickly. But what I would say is that the injury to Jason Holder, because I think Jason Holder didn't. I think they had their warm-up game at their Old Trafford behind closed doors, and I don't think Jason Holder took part. I think that's just, the pressures that a captain is under on a tour abroad, and with what's involved with the media. I mean, Joe Root speaks openly, doesn't he, about and also the Tough as Unborn podcast this week about captaincy at the elite level when he had Jason Holder on, which I listened to. It ain't easy, mate. It is not. It's not like captaining on a Saturday, turning up, doing your bit, and then you have a bit of selection issues. But these guys have got media commitments. They've got everything that comes with it, especially when you're abroad. Especially in these climates.
Have you watched the test on Amazon Prime?
Have indeed. It's worth watching that. I think.
So there's that bit where Justin Langer walks into the changing room for the first time. Obviously, since he played, he's coaching, and says that he looked at the whiteboard and he thought it was everyone's netting times. But it was their media commitments for the test match. Everyone's got their own slot to go in. And yeah, you can just imagine these guys are trying to train and prepare for a test match, but they're also getting dragged all over the place, getting interviewed, asked stupid questions by people trying to get their name out there.
What do you reckon the top questions would be at the moment? Do you feel safe playing cricket? I mean, what questions? I mean, it'd be great interviewing the Aussie team, wouldn't it? David, how do you intend to work on the ball this series? There's loads
are you going to TikTok in the changing room?
Yeah, there's the obvious gags, isn't there? Ben, sort of back to business here. Michael O'Connell's, as we know, guys, please send in any points or questions. We appreciate that. It keeps us on our toes, and often a pre-prepared answer. Often a pre-prepared answer isn't always as effective as sort of on the spot.
Oven ready.
We're happy to say again.
Oven ready. That's another Boris Johnson quote, isn't it? Just add milk.
he's an amazing
ready Brecht reference, mate.
Yeah, unbelievable. Anyway, so enough of the vectors of disease. Anyway, have you been watching some of the old matches on telly? It's scary to see the batters not wearing helmets with minimum protection. Do you know what, Michael? I watched the West Indies one the other night on, I think it was Saturday night, BBC Two, and Graham Fowler was facing the great sort of quartet of West Indians, and I have to say, it does make you question that, doesn't it? The one thing I would say though, and sort of back doing one-to-ones a bit myself, and I think that a couple of the guys, I had a few guys this week who, and I honestly believe there's a pattern with cricketers now that have grown up in the helmet era, which I don't believe you have to watch the ball as hard if it's short, because I think that they know they've got almost that. Not invincibility, because we saw the sad, tragic tale of Phil Hughes and how shocking that was, and obviously the stem guards as a result of that. But I do think there is an element of helmets, whilst they are absolutely essential. You'd never recommend anything other than that, and ECB stipulations, etc. I do think there's a case for saying that modern cricketers perhaps don't watch the ball quite as hard.
Yeah, no, that is good. A good point. The only thing I'd suggest is, have you ever thought, not you specifically, but just to return back to Michael's comment, have you ever thought about doing back footwork with a tennis ball and not wearing a helmet with kids? So then it's a safe environment. They're not going to be hurt, but you've still got to watch the ball to make sure it doesn't hit you on the head. Because obviously, if you're doing work with a helmet on at a young age, they can just get into the ball of going, right, I'm fine, nothing can touch me, sort of thing. And Nick Beggy's just put whack tennis balls at them, Tom. That works.
Yeah, well, it does work, and I think that's
wet tennis balls hurt more as well. So
yeah, but I think that's example of but tennis balls aren't a vector of disease, Ben. But I think the tennis ball thing is really, really interesting, because that's something I know I've done with Will over the years, and for confidence, it really works. And I think that you're right there. I mean, too many coaches, Michael, for me, will take the I coach approach completely, and that is that quick cricketers use win balls. When you get to under 11s, you transition them from incredible to hard ball.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of that, and I think
no, it's not a straight swap, is it, mate?
It isn't a straight swap, and I'm always, when we do our club coaches sessions and coach of our own coach education, etc. Well, I don't like to call it coach education. I think it sounds too formal. I'd coaching assistance program, if you like. But what we try and do is encourage guys to get these youngsters handling cricket balls. So even from only one ball per person, but get the youngsters, handling cricket balls, because there is nothing stopping them training.
Vectors of disease.
VODs. There's nothing stopping them handling cricket balls, I don't think, from a younger age. So I'd ask any coaches that are joining in today, ask yourself, when do you transition to hardball, and why is that? And I suspect the answer in most will be, it's obvious to when they start playing 11s. Well, maybe so. How can we get kids playing adult cricket at 13 hardball if we're not only introducing them to hardball at 11? So I think that's something as coaches you've got to really manage and don't be afraid to push guys on in practice. Certainly,
that's the other thing. It's true. All these guys that go on to play professional cricket or at the very top, they will have been playing with a hard cricket ball under the age of 10, and especially the ones that are playing now, because of the rules that were in place previously, probably would have played men's cricket at the age of 10. So it's just the earlier you can get people into it, the better. And just to answer Michael's final question as well, which was, would you face Jofra without a helmet? That's what he said. If Jofra was bowling his left arm spin, yes.
Yeah.
But no.
No, I think that's just...
Wouldn't fancy it.
No. I watched. There's for anyone that has Twitter, go on Twitter, look at Sussex's tweet from last week. I think it was Jofra back bowling in the nets, and they've got the camera right behind the batter. What I would say is that from a batter's point of view, if anyone wants to watch how to transfer your weight into a shot, that's one, because you can't move your feet at that speed very well. It's worth watching that little video, actually. So next point, let's come back. Andrew Knight. Andrew, this is brilliant. B&Q will be open, so tell David Warner that he'll be okay before the ODI series this year. So, David, I know that B&Q, other major retailers are available, Homebase, The Range, etc. But I believe David goes for grain over price, apparently, with his sandpaper. So thanks for that, Andrew. Scott Cooper, Syston Town legend, old friend of mine. Scott, hope you are well. Must catch up soon. Morning, Tom. Hope you guys are okay. If it hasn't been asked, what's your thoughts on recreational cricket? Obviously, the Boris statement, then the ECB statement, some 6 hours later, stating the positive vibes on the 4th of July start. It was amazing to read, and it's causing a lot of confusion for clubs. Yeah, I think Scott I don't know if you only just joined in, Scott, but at the start we sort of alluded to the fact that we just spoke about Boris's terminology, to be fair, mate. We haven't really addressed that, but I believe that the statement from the ECB, the positive statement that was on the back of Boris's, was what's needed, and actually you can't help but think that it's a direct response to potentially some of Boris's ill-advised comments surrounding the ball, etc., and the fact that he like a jolly good game of recreational cricket. Well, that's great. I'm pleased you do, Boris, but it doesn't pay your bills, and it does a lot of guys, clubs, and ground rents, etc. So, Scott, like yourself, mate, I hope that we can get back, and if it's safe. And I guess, Scott, I'll throw it back at you. As a club cricket stalwart, would you be willing to, would the Syston Town lads, for example, want to get back out there playing cricket of some type? I think that's what I'll throw at you, because Syston, Premier League club side, proper club cricket as such, competitive first team cricket. Would you be happy playing a first team game next month with restrictions of where the keeper can stand, restrictions on the number of slips, etc.? If the answer is yes, and I think that's the key, isn't it? Then we crack on.
I'll be honest with you, mate. I don't know restrictions on where the keeper can stand, because that's just ludicrous.
But then again, that's your take from a club cricketer, isn't it? A chairman who perhaps wants the income because they generate £400 a week on the bar might be saying, well, actually, yeah, I'm happy for them to get out there.
Well, fine, mate. Come down and play tiddlywinks. It's not cricket, is it? It's not. Don't call it cricket if it's not cricket.
Interesting.
I think if you said we're going to play training matches or something like that, but you couldn't play competitive proper cricket with and say to someone, "No, you can't stand that close to the stumps, mate,"
Mm.
or "You're only allowed to put 2 slips in, and they have to be this far apart." And you can't have someone standing at square leg because they'll be too close to the umpire.
Yeah, Scott. Coming back to your point, I do think that ECB statement was needed, and I do think that they had to go with the positive approach, mate. I think that they had to. I also think that surprising that cricket has been. There seemed, didn't there, an element, if you read between the lines of that statement, an element of surprise that the game of cricket is being separated from, say, basketball or tennis, etc., because of the fact.
The only point I heard made about tennis, which is a good one, is you can play tennis with your own balls when you serve. The other person doesn't need to touch them at all. I don't get the point about basketball. I didn't even know.
Do you know what, Ben? I hadn't thought about tennis. That's a really, really good point, isn't it? It's interesting, isn't it? How the more you talk about these things, the more points come out, and I think that's a great point about the tennis thing. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that at all. Scott's come back. Yeah, he's come back.
Oh, I'll go. He said they'll jump all over it if it's competitive, but hearing 6/8 aside at best would be tricky. I assume he means, and I do agree to an extent. Like, if 6 people can meet up and have a net now, or have a training session now, and there's not that much difference, the 1 meter rule doesn't make any difference whatsoever. If you're going to the extent where you're saying, the keeper can now stand up, that's just you don't want to be being pedantic about things if you're going to play the game. If you're going to play the game, you accept the risks and you play the game. The other thing to add actually is that Matt Hancock is a cricketer, club cricketer, from what I know. So there is hope. And if, like everything else, he's going to put his personal interests first, we should be all right.
Yeah, excellent. We're not going to go on to politics side of it.
No.
Jack Handy, thanks for joining us, Jack. He says, the level I play, we don't have to wear helmets where we are over 18. I always wore one until I was 24, 25. Felt safer, but don't wear one anymore. I find it a lot easier to watch the ball. Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, Jack. I think that...
I think that's a little bit subjective for some people. Like if you've stopped wearing a helmet to now, so I don't know how old Jack is now, but to now wear one after not wearing one for a long time, it's probably going to seem pretty weird. And also the gap that you're allowed to have is smaller, isn't it? So
I think that's one.
Maybe.
Can I jump in there, Ben? For any parents that are watching, I think that's one that's really important. I see lots of guys who are wearing helmets with screws. This is just a practical thing for parents.
Screws falling out, yeah.
Screws falling out, and the grill's able to move, and the gap's like that big. So I'm of the view that there's got to be an element of responsibility here. If you're a club coach, check your club's helmets. If you're a parent, make sure that your lad's or your daughter's helmet is actually fitted properly. When we say fitted properly, people mean, it's the right size. Forget that. Have a look at the gap of the grill and have a look if the screws are missing. Because I can assure you, if that grill can move and there's a screw missing there, if you get whacked, it's going to hurt because the grill's going to move. So again, bit of a sort of coach's rant there, but it's something we don't often think about. What else? Ben, anything else on that?
I've got something to raise, mate. I don't know what your thoughts on it are. It's quite a controversial topic. I noticed an article going back a week or so now from Ebony Rainford Brent that was about the I think it was something to do with racism in grassroots cricket.
Mm-hmm.
And I think her point was basically that grassroots cricket has a real problem with racism. And I feel that she's obviously her county's Surrey, I think that might be something that's relevant in her area. But the problem with what I saw from the article, and particularly the headline, and this is where headlines don't help people, is it looked like it had been generalised to the entire UK. And I wanted to point out, actually, that I felt that would be quite unfair on counties like Leicestershire, who do a lot of good work in the community to make sure that they engage as many cricketers as possible, particularly inner city cricketers, and provide them with lots of opportunities such as street cricket and chance to shine. It might be something that's relevant in her area. I don't know what your thoughts are. It might be something that's relevant in that area that she's specifically aware of. But I feel that would be very unfair to apply to the whole of the UK.
Yeah, I mean, Surrey's a very affluent area, and I'd imagine there's lots of old money around Surrey. I don't know the demographics of it as such, but I think that, yeah, let's just use that as an opportunity to champion the good. I think there's a lot of good work. There's a lot of work that still needs doing. I think that's,
Definitely.
But what I would like to think is that the current generation of club members, club cricketers, have a completely different attitude to perhaps previous generations. And to be honest, I know from when clubs I've played at that you would, if a good member joins the club, regardless of race, ethnicity, skin color, it makes no difference whatsoever. And if you know what, if there's slightly different, I've played with guys who have Ramadan, who obviously can't eat and drink during the daylight, and you support guys do that. I've played against guys who are going through Ramadan, and I've always been quite interested to ask questions about it and how that sort of works. And yeah, I think without opening a completely different angle here, what I would like to say is that the club cricket I have played within Leicestershire and Rutland, the teams I've played within have been nothing but diverse, welcoming, just treating guys as you find them. There's good and bad in every culture, ethnicity, and everything, isn't there?
Well, that's the problem with the media, isn't it? Really, because the way that article had been designed by the media, and I'm sure it's not the way that she intended it, is that cricket, it was basically cricket has a race problem at recreational level. That was basically the gist of the article. But then obviously if you read through it and her specifics about the areas that she's aware of, it's very different to that. And I think that's where the media doesn't help any sport by sort of singling out one area and then applying it to the whole of the game. It's just not right. And obviously there's been a lot of talk about football at the moment as well, and the amount of diversity in managers and stuff like that. And they must have a point to raise, but at the same time, football is the one sport where who you are does not matter. If an 11-year-old girl would win 10 games in a row as manager, then they would employ an 11-year-old girl. Just a fact, because all they care about is results.
Yeah, it's fickle,
but it's not a bad way to look at it. If you just look objectively results and treat each person equally, which is what we should be doing, then you eliminate the problem, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it still doesn't get past the years of ingrained attitudes,
of course,
I guess, and this idea that, and I think it's a very valid point, which is that the idea of institutionalised racism. So I'm not talking about current generation. I'm talking about previous ones. But actually, this takes on to a nice point. The appointment of Vikram Solanki, Ben.
Yes. So that was
that was. I never wanted to cover that
timingly after that article as well. Yeah.
But I think that's fantastic. I've had the pleasure of playing against Solanki when he was at Worcester in a second team game. Comes across as nothing but a genuine gentleman of the game, and clearly his coaching is well up there, having played top level cricket for England, having coached at the top level, and now having this opportunity to head the programme up at Surrey. I do think that the head coach of Surrey is a position that would take a certain type of person. I do think there's evidently quite a bit of steel behind his sort of calm and astute demeanour. I think there's a few, whatever you want to call it, characters / egos to manage. I do think that will be, I imagine it would be very similar to managing a Premier League football changing room, the Surrey job, where you are sort of managing, Jade Dernbach rocking up with his camouflage Bentley or something, chucking fibres out. I'm joking, that was Balotelli. But, I do, that's sort of a bit extreme, but I do think there would be an element of ego managing, only because that Surrey, take the cream of the crop, don't they? They do what Nottinghamshire do in the sort of East Midland area, around the south. They are able to attract and take the best players, and with that comes certain characters.
Yeah, of course. There's nothing wrong with having clubs that are at the top and dominant, and obviously financially well off and stuff like that. I think that's a good point about Solanki though, because obviously English cricket is one of those where if you look at the players throughout history. It's not a recent thing. People make jokes about having loads of South African players, but I think English cricket's had 18 players born in South Africa and 17 born in India. And obviously part of that's from British India, people like Douglas Jardine, he was born in India. But it does, if you do look back through the background of English cricket, you've got quite a lot of diversity in terms of the place of birth for a lot of these people. And it's interesting to see how many of them aren't born in England.
Yeah, there's that thing. I mean, I know a lot of the South Africans and the Aussies and etc. after the World Cup win, wasn't there? There was England have won the World Cup, but how many of the guys were born elsewhere? And I think that that was a very easy go-to, wasn't it, for them guys? But it does make your point. But your point being, Ben, is that England has.
Well, my point is that it clearly there is a system that gives people opportunities regardless of where they're from. That was my point.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
And the old-fashioned view of cricket being well, actually, I know it's not actually true, is it? Because cricket used to be a working class game because all the grounds were near train lines. But there was a bit of a view of cricket being a bit of an elitist sport, mainly with the expenses involved in playing it. But the more that can be broken down, the better I feel, and that cricket is a sport for all, really.
I mean, I'd like to think that, and certainly the way we go about delivering whatever service we offer, we want to be able to offer something for everybody. I think that's certainly from my approach. If you look at our approach to offering coaching services, I do think that the elitism and elitist attitude within cricket will always be there as such, though, I have to say. I mean, again, give you a quick idea, the first class side I played in at Loughborough University, I was the only state school player there. Again, but I'm not saying that you can read anything into that. I suspect there was a common thing.
I think that's more of a reflection of university at the time than it is of cricket. Would that be fair?
Potentially, but then you look at the amount of kids that are coming through the system from private school sectors. What I would say though, Ben, is the following: is that the ones I have seen excel are, it's not. There is no doubt that the independent cricket sector has better facilities, better coaching, better budgets, etc. Therefore, you would argue more opportunity. However, I honestly felt, having come through the system myself and not going to private school, I felt I was at an advantage at that age. And I'll tell you why. Because I was able to get out of GCSE geography or get out of AS geography and go and train once a week on a Tuesday morning. Because at that time, education was up to 16, not compulsory to 18. And I was able to make that choice. And I had guys who were at independent school, peers, etc., who wouldn't have been allowed out of school to do that. So
but again, at the same
I've got
time,
a different kind of take on that.
Yeah. Well, the ones you see excel, I think, ones that even if they've been given those opportunities, are still well grounded. Like we spoke with, obviously had Lewis McManus on 2 weeks ago. Yeah,
who I coached.
And he's clearly a well-rounded individual as well. And obviously that is a key to his development as a cricketer, and obviously is now success as a professional. And just another key point here I'd like to raise that Michael O'Connor has reminded me of. The MCC's new president is going to be the first ever female president. So it's Claire Connor. I Coach Cricket, Michael's just said, I Coach Cricket have a webinar next Tuesday with Claire Connor. What are your thoughts on that? It's a big step forward for the game, isn't it?
I think it's great for the game. I think that regardless, you listen to Claire Connor speak, you listen to her come across interviewed, she knows her stuff. She's very professional. Again, I don't look at that appointment as a female appointment. You look at it as just, well,
they've employed the right person.
An obvious appointment for that position because she's got the credentials. So no issues, mate, as far as I'm concerned. I do hope it shakes the MCC Old Boys Club up a little bit and actually.
Yeah. That's what I thought when I saw it. I thought
membership, etc., and all this.
Well, it's the sort of thing where there's obviously been a kind of attitude in the past, and that kind of appointment where they've clearly just gone, who is the best person to do this job, and I hope that that's what they've done, and they've picked. It's not positive discrimination. It's not we're picking this person for these reasons. We're going to pick the best person for the job. she's the best person for the job. And to me, that seems like a step in the right direction. We've got a comment from.
As simple as that, isn't it? It's as simple as that, Ben. It's not.
That's how it should
make
be.
it.
You don't
You
need.
can make it a thing about equality and that, but actually, that is the best appointment, I believe, at the moment for English cricket.
Exactly, and it's the reasons behind it are the important bit. They're selecting the best person for the job. You know, you don't want to be arguing about how many men or women there are on the MCC committees. You want to be saying, have they employed the right people to do the jobs, whether they're male, female, whatever. Stephen Chantrell said most of the senior players at our club will only play competitive cricket. We would get no membership from the majority. I think I'd be interested to know whether competitive means league cricket or whether it means 11-a-side cricket against good opponents. Because I do think that I know I'd be happy to play friendly cricket this year, and I think lots of other people would, but providing it was proper cricket, that's, I think, and we all want to see that. But I do think league cricket is probably a little bit unlikely, or it might not be the same or, properly competitive in that sense. But I think people would be happy to play good friendly cricket against local clubs.
Steve, if you can clarify on that, that'd be great. If you can maybe potentially just
I'd be interested
reply
to
to
know
that
whether
point.
it means league cricket or...
Just a note there, Steve. I was Steve's at Shepshed. I was actually over at Shepshed yesterday, actually doing some work with some of their junior / sort of under-19 players. I have to say, the work they are doing at Shepshed with regards to producing young talent at the moment, it's making people stand up and take note, because they are producing some really, really strong junior players over there. So I think just a quick shout out to them guys that are doing a great job there.
Nick Beggy.
Nick, Oakham. So first 11 down was just want to play cricket, even if it's intra-club. They miss the social side. I think that's right. I think that is. I think that's great, but I think the problem being, Nick, is that at what point? I don't know the finances of Nick's club, for example, but I think at what point does it become does the expense of putting something on, even intra-club, outweigh the, what sort of players? There has to be a point, doesn't there, where surely you're having to take some form of membership payment to cover things like utilities at the club, to cover insurances, to cover, if they're playing intra-club games, teas, for example, bar staff, if once the bars reopen, groundsmen's wages to prepare wickets, etc. I read a stat 2 years back. I think it cost something like between 57 and 76. I might have that the way around, but between 55 and 75 pounds to produce a club wicket or something. I don't know. I mean, that's what I heard.
Just resources, or is that
strip,
time as well?
If you average what it is,
mate,
for a paid groundsman,
if you had to pay the hourly rate that Jack Beale actually put in at Houghton and Thurmby Cricket Club, mate, it would be £5,000 per wicket. The guy's down there all the time. And I know other groundsmen are as well, because they're very committed. So I think that's probably taking into consideration groundsmen doing it out of generosity, and if they actually charge you a proper hourly rate.
And then not all clubs are in that. Correct. That's the actual point. Not all clubs are in the position where they have the goodwill. A lot of clubs have to outsource.
Yeah, have to outsource.
Or they've got a pre-existing contract where, they've been saying to the groundsman, well, we need you staying on because we're not sure when we're going to get the green light.
Yeah.
That's been a lot of the frustration, I think, has been from the clubs, is that by having certainly in the early days of this, by having no clear pathway or route out of this, I think that was half the problem, that clubs are expecting groundsmen to be still committing their hours, doing their work, etc., but with no end goal. So I think that the ground staff is a real interesting one.
Yeah, we got
Gareth Owen.
Gareth Owen, yeah. Good morning, chaps. I'd be happy to play friendly cricket, providing it's played like a league game. I'm fully on board with that comment, particularly if it's Saturday cricket, and not making a game for people as per Sunday cricket. I think Sunday cricket serves a real purpose in terms of introducing young players into men's cricket. And maybe giving younger guys an opportunity, to take key roles in a side. So if you play in a Sunday, so I think Sunday competitive league cricket is still a worthwhile project competition to have.
Just jumping in, Ben. Does Gareth, just to balance this out, is Gareth saying perhaps at the intensity and competitiveness of a Saturday?
That's
league
definitely,
Sorry.
definitely. That's what he means. And I also think he means the rules. You know, play the rules that you would play in the league that your teams play in. And if you have to do a bit of a mashup between them, if you're in different divisions, then that's fine. But I do agree in that if a lot of these people play their Saturday cricket to be competitive, and probably if like Gareth or some of the other guys playing competitive cricket of that age have got family commitments or other commitments on the weekend or the week, will only play one of the 2 days, and they want to play as properly as possible and play to win. And to be fair, at times Sunday cricket isn't played to win; it's played to give people opportunities to play the game. And I still think that's good. And if you can do that and win as well, that's great.
Still valuable in the
definitely
in the development of a club. In the development of a club, I'd argue that a year of not being able to transition junior to senior players could be more damaging long term than a year of no league cricket.
Definitely. And I know that there are other people like me that are big supporters of Sunday cricket. We've got Ken Eels watching as well. He's a big supporter of Sunday cricket because, like you said, it's a transition for those players at those age groups, and also if you've got people maybe struggling for form and want to have a bat 2 days in a row, provides opportunities for stuff like that. It's a real nice, environment. I find Sunday league cricket. And then a comment from Scott Green again. I think this follows on from the same point. Start an old school Rutland only league. Now, I know we were speaking about being a bit elitist earlier. I mean, not sure if I'm a fan of it being Rutland only, but I think he means
teams.
He means teams in those areas.
Check your postcode, and you can only play if you've got a Rutland postcode.
Well,
most people can't afford the council tax in Rutland, Scott.
Do you remember the Wisden City Cup?
Yeah.
So the Wisden City Cup was played at Houghton and Thurnby. Some of the games were played at Houghton and Thurnby when I was 15, 16. And I got asked to play in it, but I couldn't play. Even though I lived a mile and a half from the ground where it was being played, I couldn't play because my postcode was LE7. It wasn't LE1 to LE5. So
it's a City Cup, Ben. Quite right as well. I'm not sure. I'm not sure your thatched cottage in home perhaps ticks the boxes for that competition, pal. If I'm honest. That said, Ben, how's the rethatching coming along?
It's not been rethatched, mate.
Needs it though, doesn't it?
No. It's an expensive project, that, mate.
Plenty of grants out there, mate. Plenty of grants out there, or are they loans? It depends if they're grants or loans. I'm not sure. That's another can of worms. But I'm not going to open up there.
Nick Beggy said that the Rutland League's already in the pipeline. I believe that
maybe
already...
Nick knows something we don't.
Well, no, I think Nick's might be referring to the. There is a Rutland Sunday Cricket League, but that is more Rutland and the rest of the world, from what I'm aware of. As Scott said, I'm not travelling to Wisbech.
I've just got this. Sorry, I've got this image. You talk about rest of the world. Like these T20 games that people play, and they play a T20 extra as well. Okay, for anyone who's not watched it, go and watch a slightly aging, overweight Brian Lara absolutely smoke it in the bushfire game.
Yeah.
Mate, it is literally the roguest thing ever. Only he could get away with it, mate.
It's like goes in.
Mate, it is the equivalent. It is the equivalent of, I don't know, AC/DC just smashing their equipment on stage, or like Joe Root just mic dropping. Lara just goes out there, casually
over extra cover,
carves it over extra cover off about 7 balls, and just walks off, mate. Just retires himself. So not get to 30 retire, not that. It's just like, I've had enough. He was that good and still is that good that he's able to hit into out over extra with no pace on the ball and just walk off and say he's completed cricket, hasn't he?
He's 50, isn't he?
Mate,
I think he's 50.
It does not matter. Please watch that video clip. Anyone that's not seen it, I think it's on. What's the Australia Facebook page, Ben? Really good.
Mate, just type in the bushfire game on YouTube.
Yeah, just watch it. It's really worth watching.
That's what I do. There's Tendulkar bats for an over in that game, isn't he, as well?
Ben, whilst they're on YouTube, is there anything else they can tune into?
Mate, can have a look at Tom trying to sweep the ball through his own legs.
Thanks, mate. So what
some of the videos we've been doing recently.
What Ben's getting round to actually saying there is that whilst we've been doing the lockdown and the COVID stuff, we're obviously trying to keep guys interested in cricket and trying to do our little bit with the Friday mornings. We've also been producing some FOC free of charge sessions for youngsters, adults, kids, whatever, to try and have a look at and to help you with your game. So if you can't get out there, have a look. If you can get out there, if any of the videos are any use, please have a look. We've just been trying to do some just some different things really in our own time, Alad, as well.
And I'm sorry to take away from our own advertising pitch, but Nick Beggy's just clarified what he meant. And before I say this, I'm gonna let you know that I'm fully available to play on that circuit, and it doesn't matter which team for. So the teams he's mentioned, the Rutland Stamford area, Stamford, I assume Stamford Town, Ketton Sports, I think.
Stamford's Lincolnshire, Nick.
Yeah, no. Burley Park.
I'm checking. I know he'll be laughing at his computer.
Burley Park, obviously Oakham, Uppingham, Uffington, Etstead. He's just named 5 or 6 of the nicest cricket grounds that you can play at in that area.
But that said, Ben,
some good tees as well.
Yeah, I think let's get back to the serious point here. I think that's a real possibility that clubs may look to regionalise, and a bit like the T20s in the Leicestershire League, where they play against clubs in their areas. Could you be in a position where I don't know, in northwest Leicestershire, a Ashby Hastings, a Barden Hill, a potential Shepshire, for example, that sort of northwest side clubs, could they end up forming their own sort of mini league and actually, a little pot at the end of it or a cup to play for? And I don't know, could this? I don't know that there might be scope for sort of the a rebel league, mate.
A rebel tour.
A Kerry Packer Rebel League. A Kerry Packer COVID Rebel League. But Ben, bear in mind, Ben, anyone that goes against this will be severely sanctioned. It's true, mate. Severe sanctions if you go against that. Ben, thoughts?
Well, I think that's a good point, really. And it would be nice to, like Nick said here, give clubs opportunities to play their local rivals that maybe don't play in the same league as them. Nick Beggy said, I'll send Ben our membership form.
Yeah, I've heard the club are looking at taking a second ground for the fourth, Nick, so that's perfect, pal. Yeah, interesting. So I think that could be quite an interesting proposition. It'd be interesting to see I'm just saying interesting a lot, but it'd be interesting to see the which people stand up and actually take some onus to take this on board and get it running, because we all know that club cricket relies on the volunteer element and not just that, just people going above and beyond time-wise. And I think that it's really great to know, isn't it, about the game that people are already looking at going down the route of taking it upon themselves to organise some cricket. Because that's
the thing is as well, it's evident from the comments down here and obviously stuff that you hear from cricket clubs in the area that even the clubs listed in Nick's comment, Nick's comment there, you can think of the people who are putting the time into making that sort of thing happen. And there's obviously a want for it. So I'd be fully supportive of that sort of thing if it was happening in my area as well. So, yeah.
Interesting. Anything else, Ben, from this week in cricket?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. The only thing that I would have forgotten is what Michael O'Connor brought up earlier about Claire Connor. So, okay. I can't think of anything, to be honest with you. I think we've covered most things.
I've just got just one thing to leave you with, actually, Ben, which I'm sure you'll appreciate, and sure those who have tuned in will appreciate. But it is the original, and I will add original, mate. This is worth looking at for anyone who's not looking up at their screen currently. I would advise to. But this is the original vector of disease, mate.
Have you got a photo of a cricket or the Victor?
No. That is the original two-piece Slazenger Sports Direct Special Vector of Disease. And look, they've even put the capital V for Vector. I really think
victorious.
Yeah, that is. If there ever a vector of disease was personified, it's the Slazenger two-piece. Ben, look, I think that about brings us to a close for today. It will be an interesting week, waiting to hear what the ECB go for next, whether the positive outlook and positivity on the last statement is backed up, and obviously the timescale is key, isn't it? Because the longer that time goes on, the more that positivity dwindles. So I think that's key that the next statement that comes out, we're all hoping is a positive one and gets us moving forward. I'll be interested to see what if Bozza makes any more references, or if anything else comes out from him. But I think just for now, I don't think the landscape's going to change much in the next week or so. Look, next week,
can't they announce things 2 weeks ahead at a time, and see if people like it or not, and then they either U-turn or stick with it. So. I'm
just positivity, mate. What I've got out of it, the guys who joined us today on our weekly chat. Thanks ever so much for everyone's time. I'm pleased looking back at the thread over this chat that there is an air of positivity and people are looking more optimistic. And you know what? If that's what the latest ECB statement was designed to do, it's achieving that. So I'm pretty happy that I'm glad people are looking at the half full rather than half empty option with regards to everything. So, guys, thanks for joining us today. Ben, as ever, thanks for offering your time. Much appreciated, and enjoy your round of golf later today.
Just before we go, mate, I do need to mention we've actually had a watcher from the other side of the world today. Elliot Cooper has just messaged me saying he's watched the whole thing and really enjoyed it.
Where's Elliot based, Ben?
Burley Park's overseas player from last year. Yeah, and he's, I believe, in Perth, WA. And he said, "Is it a bit sunny inside? Because I've got a hat on."
No, we just to work for TFCC, Elliot, in your contract of employment, it has to say slightly thinning hair on top. So we all tick the boxes, mate. We're all for, we're talking about Claire Connor and equality and equal employment opportunities. But unfortunately, if your lid isn't thinning, TFCC will not interview you. So Elliot, unfortunately, mate, your lid is too thick to match TFCC's. Okay, guys, look, before we get too ridiculous, because we do want to keep this serious, thanks for everyone's time today. Really appreciate it, and hope to catch you all next week. Cheers, man.
Cheers.